Now, where are we in Virginia politically? And I'd like to start at the top at the presidential level and then drive us down. First, at the presidential level. In 2008, Barack Obama carried Virginia for the first time that a Democrat carried Virginia in 44 years. What was interesting in 2008 is that he carried Virginia by the same percentage that he carried the country, 52%. So that Virginia went from being a state that was like reliably red or Republican to, and I'm old enough to remember actually when red meant communist, not Republican, but that to a state that now is highly competitive state, and Obama carried Virginia by the same percentage he carried the nation. And he did that in two ways. The first is he mobilized what we call the Democratic base in large numbers. That ethnic minorities voted for Obama in large numbers, but had a great turnout as well. Young people turned out in larger numbers than normal to vote for Obama. And all of, you might say, the traditional Democratic groups not only voted for Obama in large numbers, but turned out in large numbers. The other thing that happened in 2008 with Obama is that he was able to generate a majority of independents voting for him as well, on the grounds that he was going to change the way business was done in Washington. He was somebody who really wasn't, he said, just a traditional D or a traditional R. He was somebody who would transcend that political environment. And so he was able to win both nationally and in Virginia by A, generating a great turnout among the Democratic base, and then winning among independents by a small majority, but a majority nonetheless. And that was sort of the formula. Since 2008, however, the Democrats have struggled, both nationally and in Virginia, with trying to recreate that Obama coalition. On one hand, in 2009 in Virginia and in 2010 nationally, the Democratic base did not participate in the election in very large numbers, whereas Republicans became more enthusiastic with their frustration with the president and their frustration with the Democratic Congress. And then secondly, and most dramatically, independents in 2009 and 2010 shifted dramatically away from the Democrats, I guess they should be on my left, over to the Republicans on my right here. So Bob McDonnell, for example, 1 year after Obama was elected, carried independents in Virginia with 70%. So he went from Obama carrying them with about 51% to McDonnell carrying independents with about 70%. In 2010 in Virginia, the Democrats went from a 6-5 majority in Congress to an 8-3 Republican majority. And it actually would have been 9-2 if this guy in Northern Virginia, Keith Fimian, hadn't made this crazy mistake or comment about 10 days before the election. He went on television with a Washington television station, and he said, well, that Virginia Tech issue would have been very different if we just had all the students packing heat. And that may be okay in certain parts of Virginia. Fairfax County is not one of them. And he spent the next 10 days on the defensive trying to say it. And by the end of it, he said something like, well, I really wasn't talking about the students. I was just hoping that maybe if a security guard had been closer to the event, it would have occurred. It wouldn't have occurred. But so that is how dramatic it has been in Virginia in 2009, 2010, moving over to the Republican side. So the question coming into 2012 then is, what are we going to see? Is this election going to look like 2008, or are it going to look like 2009, 2010? Republicans are hoping that it continues this sort of trend and wave that we've seen in the last couple of years. They're going to continue to trend that way. Their argument is that once again, Republicans are going to be more energized in 2012 than 2008, not because they're going to love Mitt Romney, We'll get to that, who's likely the nominee, but because they don't like Barack Obama. And they really don't like him. So they're going to come out, the argument is, in large numbers that way. And then secondly, the Republicans are hoping that the independents are going to continue to respond to the economic conditions that are not all that favorable, maybe a little better, but not all that great. They're going to be driven by things like $4 a gallon gas, and they are going to be driven by concern about what the Democrats did in Congress and the unpopularity of Obamacare, and they're going to continue to vote for the Republicans. So this trend is going to continue, and that Virginia is going to come back and sort of reverse course. Obama and the Democrats are going to continue, however, to keep Virginia near the top of their list of the swing states that they're going to fight in, because they don't quite take the Republican argument as gospel about what's going to happen. And they don't take it for a couple of reasons. The first is, every election in America almost has a different electorate to it. That it's one thing to talk about trends in Virginia, but these are trends with very different electorates. And what I mean by that is this. In 2008, 74% of registered voters in Virginia showed up. Do you know what percentage of people vote in a gubernatorial election among registered voters?
20.
And it's high as about 44. But that means 3 out of every 7 people who voted for president didn't vote in the gubernatorial election. And the Democrats tend to think there are a lot of people in Virginia, what they call the presidential voters. People who vote only in presidential elections, don't vote in other elections. And the Democrats tend to believe that those voters favor them. That what they need to do is to get these presidential voters out again. And if they can generate that, they can have some opportunity on that front. So the Democrats believe, first and foremost, that the electorate's very different. And that what they need to do is to kind of gin up that same kind of turnout again among their base, and they think it's possible. You know, they think that ethnic minorities are going to continue to vote for the Democrats. They're not happy with where the Republicans are going. They think young people are driven far more by social issues than they are by gas prices, and that they're likely to continue to vote for the Democrats on those issues. So they're not all that upset. And then the Democrats also look at this election that was seemingly so bad for them in 2011 in Virginia and say, well, it wasn't that bad. They look at, let's say, that Senate election where they lost control of the Senate. But the Democrats say, you know, the Republicans took 4 or 5 shots at our candidates in Northern Virginia. They didn't win one of them. They took a number of shots at our candidates and incumbents in Hampton Roads. They didn't knock out one of them. They didn't knock out the incumbent they tried to knock out in Roanoke. In all the areas that we need to win in a presidential election to win, we won in the last General Assembly election, they think. So the Democrats think they have a real shot here at what's going on.